I'm assuming everybody's heard about this one way or another, TV, radio, whatever it was. So I won't give you the full boring detail. I'm sure you've heard it a million times already. Basically, it was March 1st. It was a couple Fridays ago. My son Josh, he's 7 years old. And I want to say this too up front. I've tried to make this kind of apparent in the media, but it seems that it's kind of not ignored, but just overlooked. Josh does suffer from ADHD. He has his moments where he's just very hyper and he can't seem to just get it all out, and he can be a little rambunctious and loud and things of that nature. So he went to school about 8:30 in the morning. I got a call probably about 9:20, not very long after he left, from the assistant principal and she was telling me that Josh was being suspended for 2 days because he chewed his breakfast into the shape of a gun and pointed it at somebody and went bang bang with it. After the couple seconds of awkward silence of me trying to take that in, I said, what did I say to her? I said, this is the one time you've called me where, I don't agree with what you're telling me. Josh having the ADHD, I communicate with the school a lot, because sometimes he has to be, taken out of class to sit down and calm down for a minute and, just get back to being himself. And usually the school and myself and my wife, we communicate very well. We interact and we get things done and accomplish, dealing with him. And I told her, I said, this is the first time you called me, and I'm like, I don't know about this. So I go up to the school, I sit down with the assistant principal. The head principal was not there that day, just to make that clear. She was out, I think her father or something was, actually has passed away. He was in ICU or something. And she went over the situation again very briefly as she did on the phone. And a little bit of frustration started to come out. And I was trying to figure out what the actual, kind of like what Rob was saying, what the actual crime was. Like, how was anybody harmed? I mean, was there really a need for him to be removed from school for 2 days for what the accusation was? And what really started my reaction to it in the media and all that was the focus seemed to be really heavy on the emphasis of what looked like a gun. And we've all seen all the other stories, throughout the country, the Hello Kitty bubble guns and the fake grenades and all this stuff kids are getting suspended for. And when those things happen, I spread those on the internet. I have a small group I'm in on Facebook, some friends of mine, and we share these things back and forth. And I'll push it just for awareness, in this area, because some people may not hear about that stuff. But when it happened to my son, it was one of those things like it happens to you and you take a different, view of it. And that's wrong. I didn't take a different view of it. It just became a lot more serious at that point. So I posted something on, Fox Facebook page, just kind of a brief rundown like I just gave. And 5 minutes later, they're writing me back, call our newsroom. I'm like, okay, not a big deal. It's, 5:45, it's local, it's whatever. They sent, a crew out to the house. They were there for a few minutes. They did their initial interview and recording. And the next 3 days were, it's like I was Michael Jackson reincarnated. Like, just the phone was ringing, the emails are coming in. It was quite hectic. Through all that, the organization that Robert mentioned, 1 Million Moms Against Gun Control, they're actually based right out in Baltimore County, so they're 20 minutes away from here. The founder of that group got a hold of me. We talked back and forth about some things, and that group is pretty large. They have media reps and legal counsel in different parts of the country. So while they're based here in Maryland, I've talked to one of their attorneys who's in Washington State, a media rep who's in Massachusetts, so they're all over the place. And it was actually her idea, the founder of the group, to start the campaign, the letters that were passed around to go to the principal and the superintendent. And they put together this online campaign where you can click a link to get to one letter, or click this link to get to another letter, or you can click this link just to send an email. And the idea was just to kind of bombard the school and the school or the Board of Education, with what people thought about this and the disagreement and the decision. I kind of jumped ahead. What happened after the head principal came back, this is pretty important. the head principal came back the following Monday, the 4th, and I met with her. And it seems that the focus in her eyes was not really anything to do with the presence of something that looked like a gun. Her statements to me revolved more around, Josh has been a disruption before, due to his, hyperactivity and whatnot, and that this was just kind of like the final, straw, and that's what led to a suspension. Obviously, I had to contest that because, the referral that was sent home heavily emphasized, gun and bang and, stuff like that. That same day, they sent home a, can't remember what they're called, these letters, what are they called? No, they're letters they send to all the students just letting the parents know there was an issue that day.
A memo.
Some type of memo. It didn't provide any details or, Josh's name or what happened, but it offered counseling to any children who were stricken by this incident. Now, mind you, this is after the referral that was sent home specifically stated, I'm sorry, not the referral, in the same letter that offers counseling, specifically says no one was harmed, during the course of this event. So, the media obviously they want, follow-ups and stuff, so I forwarded that to them, and they love that. They tore that apart. I guess grief counseling they refer to it.
Is that counseling available in the public?
If it is, I wouldn't go get it there, But, so yeah, the principal, and I have to say, and this is again something I tried to make pretty apparent to the media, the principal, without her actually coming out and saying it, I think she was kind of not happy with the way the assistant principal handled it because of her emphasis on the whole gun thing. Because again, both of these people are very easy to get along with. They work with us very well with Josh, and we usually see eye to eye on things and we get things done. So the principal asked me, she's like, what do you want to do, basically to get the media off my back? People had tracked down her home phone number. And this is something that I kind of figured that could happen, but I didn't think people would be calling the principal's house, over this. But the school was getting blown up with phone calls, some of them not very friendly, or, some of them are kind of violent from what I understand. So between the school and the principal's house, she's like, basically, in so many words, I want to get the media off my back. What do we have to do? I told her, I said, if you want to discuss my son having a suspension because he has repeatedly disrupted the class, we can discuss that. But at the bare minimum, I want this whole gun reference removed from his record because I don't want him to try to go through a security clearance when he's 25 and they go, well, you threatened to shoot somebody when you were in 2nd grade, so sorry. I said, ideally, I just want the whole thing right because it's just ridiculous. There's no need for it to be there. The principal at that point, she said, give me a half an hour. She got on the phone, she made phone calls, and she made what appeared to be an honest, diligent effort to actually accomplish what I had requested. She came back to me and said, her words were, I cannot remove it. Sounds like to me, that's coming from above. If she knew she couldn't do it or she didn't want to do it, I don't see her picking up the phone in the first place. So at that point, follow back up with the media, keep them up in these details, and that's when it came to the school board. At this point, I'm still talking to the 1 Million Moms group. They have a guy who kind of specializes in dealing with media and stuff like that. We went through some steps that we were going to go through, try to open it up. It had a lot of public attention as it was, but to put the pressure on the school and the school board, to reverse their decision. At that point, I had one of the interviews from the Washington Post, a reporter, said that there was an attorney who wanted to talk to me. His name is Robin Ficker. Yeah, Robin Ficker. And before I called him, I Googled him, and he actually has had some success getting cases just like this removed from other kids' records. So I called him up, and he's kind of a high-strung guy. He's got to be in his mid-60s, but he's wired, man. And he, we went through the details. I sent him, the documents I had on the situation. And he put in an appeal to the school board free of charge. He didn't charge me a dime to do it. He said the other 3 cases that he's had put through, never actually went to court. He just went through the appeal process, maybe had some phone calls, and the marks were removed. So I'm hoping that will be the result of this. Obviously, the media attention is starting to die down, as expected. So really, between the petitions, or not the petitions, the letters that were distributed from 1 million moms and the appeal from an actual attorney, that's kind of the final push to have this overturned, have it removed from the record. And like I said, I'm content talking about him being suspended based on just being a disruption. I know he can be loud, he can be hard to deal with sometimes, but with the whole stigma around guns nowadays, I mean, who knows what that's going to be in 20 years, 15 years. I mean, people are real sensitive to it now, and there's just no way to know how they're going to react, in the future. I mean, I know my father-in-law has to go through extreme, security clearance background checks to get on construction sites, and I just don't, I don't know what Josh's path is going to be, and I just don't want that to be an issue. Maybe it's extreme to think that it could be, but the point is it could be, I don't want to have to, I don't want him to deal with that. So some people have asked me, actually the lady from the Washington Post asked me, when I told her about the 1 million moms against gun control, she said, has this issue turned into a gun issue? And I said, I don't think it's turned into a gun issue. I think it stems from a gun issue. And some people are kind of surprised that a pro-gun advocacy group are, pushing as strong as as hard as they are on this, because they're all over 24 hours a day. And I just think, I'm assuming some of you guys in here have school-age children. No? No? It's okay. I tried. Maybe some of you will one day. Maybe. You could too. Don't count it out. Come on now. No? I got 4. You can borrow one. So the main reason, aside from obviously clearing my son's record, because that's first priority, is obviously this is a trend that's happening in this country. And we just don't know where that's going to go or how far it's going to go. And I've just gotten to the point where I'm concerned about how many more kids it would happen to, and the degree of effect that could have. Robert was talking about if what is necessarily illegal isn't necessarily wrong. And we seem to we're having a problem with, not we, but particular legislators and stuff, having a problem deciphering the difference between what should be illegal because it's wrong or vice versa. So in response to all this, there's a senator. His name is J.B. Jennings. He's a Republican senator. He represents Baltimore and Harford County. He proposed a bill to try to prevent this from happening again. It's Reasonable School Discipline Act of 2013. Senate Bill 1058. And basically it would prevent, it takes away the zero tolerance thing, which is what this stems from. It takes away the ability of a principal or a school administrator to suspend a child for, having something that resembles a gun but serves another purpose, such as breakfast, or, your hand, or a piece of paper, or whatever it is. The bill has already made it through the first round, and I can't tell you what these rounds are. That's
What's the bill number?
1058.
SB 1058, yeah, Senate Bill 1058. Wednesday, it's going to the EHE committee. What's that? Education, Health, and Environmental, something, like that. And it goes before the whole board of senators there. And if it passes there, then it goes to a third round, which I believe is the final round. Maybe somebody's an attorney in here. You can confirm that. Is that you? Yeah. So the hearing, it's Wednesday at 1 o'clock. And we've been talking to Mr. Jennings' advisor a lot. He's been kind of keeping us up on it. He said anybody who supports a bill like this, the more people that go out to show that support on the day of the hearing, it definitely helps in terms of. I'm guessing the senator is seeing how serious a deal it is and how seriously people take it. So if anybody is interested in going to that, it's on 11 Bladen Street. That's downtown Annapolis. I'm assuming, yeah, that is. I know where that is. It's in the Miller Senate building. Starts at 1 o'clock. They suggest to being there by noon. You got to go through ID and all that. You know.
What day was that?
It's Wednesday the 20th. Yeah, you got to show ID. You got to go through the whole metal detector, cavity searches, all that good stuff.
Pop-Tart detector.
Pop-Tart detectors. Right. Extra sprinkles. And just to clarify, it was not a Pop-Tart. It was like a Danish, those long, skinny things, and they got the slits in the top with icing. It's like a Danish.
Toast strudel?
Similar. But the Pop-Tart's easier to relate to, so everybody, hooked on Pop-Tart. I'm not going to argue. So yeah, that will be heard on Wednesday by the whole committee. Like I said, if it passes that, then it will go to the final step, which you told me what it was. But I don't know. The Senate floor? Okay. I should really know this stuff. But and if it passes through the Senate floor, then, from my understanding, it would become law.
Then it goes to the House.
Oh, geez, another
And
step?
then,
Yeah.
if it doesn't have enough votes, the governor can veto it. So there's a lot of steps.
I don't want to deal with that guy. That's a whole other meeting. It is. Either way, it's past the first step, so that's a good sign. And it's a real short bill. If you look it up, I printed it up. It's like 3 or 4 pages. It's not it's not Obamacare with 20,000 pages of regulations. It's real simple. It's real concise, and it's to the point.
Do you know if the teachers union has taken a position on the bill?
I haven't heard anything about that. I've been trying to keep up on that and see if I can dig anything up on that.
It'll be on their website.
Really? Not too bad. I don't follow union stuff at all. So.
They're going to be the power player.
Really?
The whole thing.
Yeah.
Basically, you don't find out
They know. Trust me, they know.
I've kind of wondered if the teachers, and I guess the teachers union, they've just kind of let it slide past them now because it's moved on to the board. I don't know really how they work internally like that, so.
They may welcome such a bill, but it takes the decision out of their hands, so to speak, whether we should be zero tolerance or can we show a little bit of.
Well, and that's the thing. Like I've read comments on Facebook. A lot of people support the bill and the removal of the zero tolerance type authority. But then some people say, well, if there's not fine lines, it kind of leaves it open for abuse of judgment or lack of good judgment. But if a teacher's not qualified to have, if a teacher can't have good judgment, she probably shouldn't be a teacher.
It's a whole different story.
That's a whole other meeting too, yeah.
Speaking of the teacher, I was very curious to know what kind of relationship Joshua has with that classroom teacher, or your families have with that classroom teacher. My first reaction was that that teacher probably did not like him. If she were willing to take it to that extreme and not just make it something that she dealt with on the classroom level, but maybe I'm wrong.
I have literally seen the teacher once. I don't think I've ever actually spoken to her, except had you spoken. My wife's spoken to her once. I think I've written a couple letters back and forth about an assignment or something. And my son's explanation. They seem to get along well. He doesn't. He gets in his mood. He's like, I don't like my teacher. Like kids do. But for the most part, they seem to have a good relationship. I haven't seen any evidence to indicate otherwise. And I do know that they have dealt with, quite a bit, just with the whole ADHD thing, the hyperactivity and stuff. I know what that's like. So dealing with it in a classroom setting, I'm sure it can be even more of a challenge. So I don't think the teacher, I don't think the teacher overdid it necessarily. If you were to ask me, I would say it was the assistant principal who started that wave of overreaction. I don't know what the teacher's response was, verbally or physically. I've read the referral that she wrote, and it just seemed pretty standard, for what a teacher would write, in regards to an incident. But out of everybody, it was the assistant principal that seemed to have this big, it was a gun thing, And that's really what, when that happened between, that and all the other incidences like this that have happened, that was just like, okay, this has got to stop, And I know right now it's just a state thing, But, I mean, like many other laws and regulations, I mean, they start in one state and they, spread. I mean, it's happening right now. States, instituting laws that are, copied from another. So, I mean, that's really our goal, obviously, is to deal with our son's issue first, and then hopefully, prevent it from happening to other kids here and in other states if possible. So, yeah.
Thank you.
That's about it.
Appreciate it.